got the entire window opening screwed in. That's one thing with using the plywood that I bought. I want to make sure I make clear. This is not prime plywood. This is what they call reject, like I guess it'd be considered a number 2 ply. And what it is, around some of the spots there are places where it's delaminating. I'm not afraid to admit that. That's why it's $11.50 cheaper a board. But what I figure, as long as the edges are very securely screwed down, definitely I'll seal it, paint it with an exterior paint of sorts, some kind of sealant. It shouldn't be no issue. Definitely I'm trying to build this on a budget, and this is the part that I've been waiting for, which I know the window will fit in the opening, but now it's going to fit into a framed opening. And let me make sure I get this thing actually all the way in, because this corner definitely, well, guys, you've seen it first. The reason this edge is not sitting down all the way, which I might be able to take care of it, is I apologize, guys. Hang on one second. Let me get y'all the tripod a little bit shorter. Alright, as you notice, now the window is sitting flush all the way around. It's perfect. I think it looks neato. Taking an old school word. Basically what it was, if you can see right through there, the window crank was sitting on top of the crate, causing it not want to sit down. So I went ahead and just pulled the crate out, moved the wall, manipulated it. So that is a finished wall section. Well, I call it finished. We still have to add one stud here in the top and one at the bottom, but you get the idea. It's definitely exciting. This will make, once I get done with this will be the second panel down, and we got, what, 16 more to go to make the entire cabin. And the cool part is it can be built off site. I'm not rushing. I can have all these wall sections pre-painted if I wanted, transport them to site. Once they're stood up, everything's leveled out, stood up, etc. From that point on, basically, it's literally just grab panels, orientate them the way I want, bolt and screw them together. Hell, even before the roof goes on, if I just want to take the windows and drop the windows in the openings, caulk them in, secure them, I could literally have the entire outer perimeter shell and the floor would be done quick as everything could have been hauled into the campsite. I got a little gap. Got to figure. Oh, there's some old, some kind of old caulking or something that was on the edge of these windows. I did. Excuse me. I did the top yesterday. Took the putty knife and got rid of it. Must have forgot one little spot right there. But that's not a big deal. It'll only take a couple seconds to take care of. But that is super exciting. She's on her way to being done. All right. Went ahead and finished test fitting the window, made sure everything was good. Went around the whole thing. Realized I made an error on my part, but to me, I can fix this easy when I start building the last two sections, which are going to be the side walls. Basically, what I'm doing right now is the 4 panels that go across the front. So right now, this panel, the way I want to orientate these panels, this panel we're working on now, is going to be the very first panel. Then we're going to have the door, and then we're going to have 2 more windows. Since this window kind of cantilevers out, that's why I'm putting it as the first panel, so I can still look out of it, because the wood stove is going to be kind of almost in front of it, give or take, kind of angled. What I did now to make the last 2 studs is I went, instead of cutting a brand new board, always look through your scrap pile first, because using up scraps, you're saving yourself money, you're not wasting anything. And it's better to get it down to its smallest pieces that become absolute trash or firewood. So for my top one, my top stud came out 16 3/8. Just going back to the old Milwaukee saw. And it's easy as that. Here's a top plate. And what's funny is I have a double X here because this was a scrap piece, and now I have a little small square with a small X. And that's my fault. First time in a while, I started getting off the line. Again, I'd rather have it nice and tight, and you can barely still see my pencil line. That's the way I like it. Now, again, we're using stuff. If I had this little scrap first, I've got this big old piece of scrap that I put some measurements on because I want all my window heights to be the same, because the windows are approximately about the same. So what I'm going to do is transfer these measurements that I took, because this becomes a redneck notepad. I'll transfer them to this little block of wood. Put the block of wood, just throw it in my toolbox for this build, because I'm just trying to use the most basic tools I have, nothing fancy. And we're going to keep this measurements so that way when I start building the other two walls, at least I know my height of the windows should remain about the same. Let me go ahead and transfer this, and we'll go flip this camera around, put the last two studs in, get ready to call this done. I started just putting this in, and I'm just eyeballing where this goes. And that's what I was saying earlier about cutting everything nice and tight. When it's nice and tight, it's got a better chance of just literally just laying in there, versus some of the other issues you'll have later on. If it's too loose, it's just going to want to flop and stuff. And I'm just going to take a quick look, step back. Everything looks aligned up. I'll just take a tape measure real quick. I'm going to just start one screw to hold it. I'll just take tape measure, make sure it is level, because my little level even is too big to fit in there. Let me go ahead and, well, there's no point in showing all this on camera, but that's just kind of what I wanted to show. This is the one stud, and I've got the other one cut for the bottom. I'll go ahead and screw this in, and also what I'll do, besides check and make sure that's going to be level, I don't know yet if I want to come, which I'll probably end up doing it from the insides. Let me show you all this, because I know the camera's not pointing in the right direction, but since I can't come this way and put a screw, I'd like to do a double screw like this. I like the bigger screws. I like everything nice and tight. So what I'll do is I'll just come in from an angle and put two of them like that, two in every single one of the openings, and also the bottom stud will get four. They'll get two from the top, two from the bottom, and that way it adds a little bit more weight, but it's also a little bit more strength. Well, it's done. So this is the second wall section done. 16 more to go. Completely done. So I can't really complain. As you see, just through a quick interior, I'm sorry, not interior, center stud, top, bottom. Approximately they're the same heights, give or take. I mean, like I said, it doesn't have to be dead perfect on the center. This is a hunting cabin. Actually, this one looks kind of funny. I don't know why. It looks lower on this end than that one. I'm going to go through and double check what I did. Other than that, like I said, there's not really much left to it. I mean, it's basically done. Yeah, actually it is done. Screws across the front, etc. She's done. She is a little bit heavier than my last panel, but that's also because the last panel, majority of it was a whole doorway. So we're done with this one. We're going to move on to the next panel. The next two should actually look very close and identical to each other. So I think I have a quick trick on making the window openings. We're going to snap 4 chalk lines like we did with this one, but I might have an actual faster method of cutting out both holes once. So, or actually tracing the design over. Let me see what we're going to happen. The other two windows are very similar to this. I think it's like an inch difference in, I believe it's an inch difference in height, I want to say. I believe that's what it is. The other window, this window is an inch taller, same width, or it's the same height. I believe, actually, no, I know what it is. The other window is actually an inch wider than this one, so it's not bad. All the windows are going to be at the same exact height. This one cantilevers out, and the other two slide up and down. For 3 freebie windows, I really wasn't complaining. As a matter of fact, I need to clean up because I'm actually going to go look at somebody's donating 4 windows to the cabin project, and the Off-Grid Education Center for free, brand spanking new in the wrappers. They ordered windows. All the windows for the home came in wrong, so they were all allowed to keep them free, and the company had to redo them. So I'm going to go pick those materials up. Let me clean up my little work site, and we're moving on to the next two panels so we can get the front of this cabin built. Alright, got another sheet of ply sitting here on my table. Super stoked. We have heavy winds today, so if y'all hear a lot of wind in these next so many clips, I apologize. For us here in North Florida, this is winter, and unfortunately our winter is different than up north. I'd rather have it snowing 10 feet on the ground than the cold chills that we get in the air, because our winter is like very wet, which kind of sucks. But I'm definitely a heat person, not freezing your tail off person, but I deal with it. Getting back on subject, we got the two walls over there. As that you see, we got the first wall panel, which has the entry door. We got one of the panels that houses like a 36 by 36 roughly window. The openings are just a hair different between all three that I'm gonna put on the front, and it's no different here. Like I said in the last clip, or one of the last couple clips, these panels are reject boards. That's why I'm able to get them for like $12 cheaper, but I can make them work. What makes them a reject board? Something like this. This is going to be on the edge, but I'm not worried about that. And you'll see later as the cabin is assembled why I say I'm not worried about it. Even something like this right here. Now this is exactly why it becomes a number 2 board, and it will not get sold like Home Depot. And I could tell, like, there's a good portion here that's, I guess, the glue didn't contact or something. But if you really think about it, since each panel is going to be wrapped with 2x4 around the inside right there, this really shouldn't matter, because I put screws every so many inches, and I don't mind using an excessive amount. Plus, there's going to be a big window opening cut out here, so if there is any more of the delamination here towards the center, we're just literally removing that anyway for our project. So first is first. What I did is I took my good old redneck notepad here, and what I did was I transferred the measurements from the other panel, and my main one is going to be coming up from the bottom to the bottom of the window. I want to keep all my windows approximately the same dead on height. So by doing so, what that enabled me to do is just to take these basic measurements, and I'll transfer them to the next 2 sheets. We're going to pop some string lines and get a cutting. By doing it this way, all my bottoms will be the same height, and I believe it's only an inch difference, and I believe the inch is going to be width-wise. It's like one window is like the one window I did over there, it's approximately like 1 inch wider or something. But when we're done, you shouldn't be able to tell a complete difference at all. I guess let me go ahead and we're going to go ahead and pop the bottom string line, and we're going to go from there and start setting up other getting ready to be cut out. Alright, so I know my measurement from the bottom of the windows to bottom of the windows, 38 and 7/8. So whoa, for me this is pretty well easy. Here we go, 38. Keep the tape just right because I want dead on numbers. So far as easy as that. Just got to move on to the other side, and here's the wind kicking up. Oh, you got to love Mother Nature. And yes, I do wear shorts all year long because my legs don't bother me. It's my arms, my chest, and my arms. Once they get cold, I am done dealing. .38, 7/8. So now all we got to do is take a pop of chalk line, and we know we got a dead level on line. I always recommend to anybody, go to Walmart, go to a Dollar Tree, wherever. I went yesterday, I was out of town, Bought another 16 pack of pencils and probably a 12 pack of sharpeners, because I love using just standard pencils to draw lines, especially when I'm building anything. Alright. Which this reminds me, it's time to go get, time to end up going to go get some more chalk for the old chalk box. But let me get set up for another little trick I'm going to show y'all and be right back. Alright, this is my little trick, because I normally like to have two people doing this, and because I like to be dead spot on. That's just me. Everybody's different, plus I always got a good buddy of mine that loves to help. So what I did was I turned around, took one of my screws, put it right dead on my mark, because I really don't like using the I don't like using the little piece that comes on the chalk box, but this is just as easy as stretching it. Lay it right dead on my tiny little pencil mark. And there I go. Dead straight line, so I know I'm gonna have a level window. And there goes my pencil flying from the old wind. So I guess the next step, what I'm going to do, let me go grab the one of the windows, which thank God the other two are going to be identical, and I'll show you some other ways how I set my lines up. Alright, so what I basically did is I went and grabbed the window, and I really haven't looked at these since they were given to me about a couple weeks ago, and that's just because I've been busy with work. Sorry, I'm not trying to be in the camera frame, just a little bit of putty. I mean, these are used windows, like I just noticed. What was it? I believe you can't see it right now. I'm not going to bring it up, but anyway, I mean, there's little imperfections. And these things are not perfect. Again, these are used windows, but I've kind of made it a goal to use stuff that as it's been given to me and try to find ways to fix it and repurpose it, etc. Since I know exactly where these came from. They came from a little automotive shop a couple towns over from where I work. I know the guy, he's a good guy. I'm like, you know what? And especially it was actually my good buddy who gave me the windows. He's actually given me all three windows. One from his house that he had laying out back, and he just worked on this job. They did an addition and tore these out. Oh, excuse me. Only issue I have, I see the little lock piece on this one is missing, so I'll have to fabricate something. To me, it's not a big of a deal. Repurpose and recycle and reuse is my whole thing. So now that we got this window laid out, and what I did is on the inside flange, I don't know how good you're gonna be able to see that. What I do is basically make sure it's level across on my line. And now that I have it, so it's just gonna be literally nothing more than to make it actually easy for me. All I'm gonna do is turn around, trace this opening. Once this so the opening itself is traced out, honestly, go ahead and cut it out from the bottom of the window all the way to from the bottom of the window to the bottom of the wall. It's just going to be the exact same height as that. Like I said, one of these windows, if not two or something, it's like an inch difference in, I believe it's the width. So for my particular application, this should work dead on perfect. So I guess let me go ahead and get that done, and we'll go ahead and get set up for the next clip, because it takes approximately, it's taken me, even I believe with a helper, approximately 2 hours, 3 hours, give or take, to do all the precise cutting, measuring, etc. But in the end, the reward is going to be well worth it. Alright, so now this window is done. Make sure it can be pushed all the way up into the closed position. And I mean, it's just like the other window. It's missing a screen, which isn't a big deal. You can buy kits. But if you notice, alright, let's get the sucker out of the way. Sorry, I have to securely put things away right now because of the wind. But if you notice, what it does is leave me with a perfect opening, or I'm sorry, not opening, but a perfect line where the inside opening for the window is going to be. So right now it's nothing more than just go ahead and cut this, and with a couple of cuts, zip zip zip, 4 quick cuts, and we have the next sheet getting ready to be put together. So I guess without further ado, let me grab the saw and let's go ahead and start getting this cut. Alright, it's kind of something I wanted to show. Just like I showed here on the edge, the delamination here on the edge of the board. Now, keep this in mind before I get any crazy comments. If it's delaminating on the edge, obviously this thing would only serve so much purpose. Now, why did this not get sent to Home Depot or Lowe's or some of the other big boys stores? Okay, it's delaminating, so obviously this is going to be rejected. They're selling it to me for $18.50 a sheet. I'm pretty well sure they're going to make at least $2 profit. For me, it's still a almost $12 savings. And the reason I'm still able to use it, it's delaminating from the edge. And as I cut this out and I put this board identically because I wanted to show y'all, obviously it's delaminating right here, dead in the center of the board. Pretty well sure, yep, it's delaminating right here. I can feel it right here along this edge, just a short little gap. So like I stated, if you know how to use your board and you have no other issues, for me it's not going to be an issue because I'm going to have screws every so many inches along this edge all the way down, and I'm going to have a stud here. Every so many inches is going to be a screw holding them down. So from what I've seen on the rest of the board, you kind of have to watch your board to see what you're doing. It looks like I have all the delamination gone. It's not going to hurt me one bit, and I still have a good piece of plywood for the most part that I can use for other purposes, and I will definitely figure out what I'm going to do with it. Thinking honestly at the shooting range we're going to put out there at the Off-Grid Education Center, could be maybe a little backstop for 22s or pellets or something. So I mean, there's always other uses for this, so we're not going to count this piece down and out. So I guess what I'm going to do is let me set this tripod back down. Let me grab the window, test fit the opening, and see what we got. Look at that. We have another window in place. It's got a little bend up flange on the outside. That ain't no big deal. Once the window is eventually installed, I'll just come back, maybe do some 2x2, I don't know, some kind of little stripper on the edge, something decorative. Even though the window won't be able to be removed after it's installed, still can be the whole wall panel, just like the door and everything else, should be able to be moved carefully. We can avoid any issues. Transporting them from site to site if this cabin is going to be moved multiple times. I only plan on moving it once and setting it up. I do plan on eventually making this into just a permanent installation. This is my portable cabin, as I call it. It's going to look so beautiful. Be able to just walk by these windows and just overlook the creek, just to see a nice beautiful view of what's going on outside in nature. So right now I got it. I've got the sheet. Basically, we've got everything set. We've got the window going. So now it's going to be time to start running screws down the sides, cutting other studs and different things. So I guess I might as well go pluck out 6. Even though so far on the last panel I didn't need them, but I calculated roughly 6 studs per sheet. I believe my original measurements I came out with 5, but I bring 6 over just in case. If I have an extra, I just go plug it back in the pile, which isn't going to hurt my feelings, because then that's one less stud I have to buy to make the other, what did I have, I believe it was 16 other panels, I believe. Or was it 12? It was 12. I have 6 sheets here. I need 12 more to make 18. So let's go ahead and get started. Bring some wood over here, start wrapping this. I'm kind of ready and stoked to see this over there in that pile over there, because then that means that's one less wall panel I have to build. And as my trailer empties up, I am trying to figure out how we're going to do this logistically, because I believe the way I figured it out, it's going to be half the pile in the front, half the pile in the rear. We'll strap them, then the garden tub somehow sits on top, and then I have to transport this safely over to the campsite.